Hello again and welcome. What we're doing today is slightly different. After I finished playing the Herald, I had all these ideas, all these thoughts and opinions in my head, which I just wanted to get out to you. So this is just going to be me talking about the game, what I liked, what I didn't like. I'm not going to call it a review because at the end of the day, a reviewer plays for a game, they write down or they speak about what they thought about the game. Because I'm doing Let's Plays, I'm only playing around about half an hour a day. This drags it out, and whatever happened earlier on, I will probably have less of a memory of than what happens later on. For the Herald, it's a short game, that's not too bad. When games start getting longer, I don't feel like I would give it justice. I don't think I would be 100% accurate all the time, so as such, I'm not going to call this a review. This is just simply, well, I'm going to call it Afterthoughts, which is my ideas after I finish playing the game of what I thought of it. So, on to Herald. It's the first game from Whisper Studios, and I've got to say, I enjoyed it. I definitely did. Describing what kind of game it is, it's sort of an in-between zone, okay? On the one hand, you have, I don't want to say this because it's not quite what it is, but visual novels. Games which aren't really games, you just go there, you click a button, occasionally you have dialogue options, but you just go through and you experience the story. On the other hand, I think, of what this game is, you have the Telltale games. I think this is somewhere in between the two. It's 3D, it's got more interactive than a visual novel, like a Telltale game, but at the same time, the gameplay isn't there. Beyond the dialogue options, and beyond clicking on a spot to move your character, and clicking on objects to find out more about them or use them, there's not any gameplay, really. I think off the top of my head, there is one situation where you're helping someone where you need to pick up items for them to give to them. But beyond that, it's not like a hidden object game where you're finding objects and you're using them with things. You are just walking about and talking. And as such, that leads me away from the Telltale games, which do have gameplay. Despite what some people may say to them, there is gameplay into them. And more towards the visual novel side of things, where it's just about experiencing the story. I enjoy that. That's fine for me. For some other people, it might not be. But the world this is set in, I completely love. I can say that completely and honestly. The world building and the art style are completely brilliant. The game looks beautiful. It looks amazing. The way they've designed it in this sort of pseudo end of Age of Sail world. It looks, even the finer details. Like when I'm walking about the deck of the ship, I see the light white wisps of cloud to represent wind blowing across. It all looks amazing. I enjoy looking at the character portraits when I'm in dialogue. And the world itself that this art brings to life is also brilliant. I want to know more about it. I want to know more about the Protectorate. I want to know more about the colonies. The Kingdom of Brazil is a great example. It's mentioned for about 1 minute long at most part in the character's backstory. And I want to know more about it. I want to know why it's like that. I want to know what other people are doing there. I want a whole game set in the Kingdom of Brazil. I think that would sound brilliant. And I think that's a perfect example of what world building should be. It builds this world, it keeps giving you more information about this world, but at the same time you always want to know more. You find it fascinating, you want to experience more of it. I think a good world building should do that. It should not tell you everything, it should leave it up to your imagination at some points, like my Kingdom of Brazil example, which I'm going to keep saying. Like what happens in the capital city of the Protectorate, what happens between the colonies and the Protectorate, but it should tell you enough, and that's what this game does well. Now, the characters themselves, as I've said, look beautiful. The voice acting behind them, I love just hearing the characters speak. Each character is voice acted brilliantly. In fact, off the top of my head, I can't think of one character whose voice acting I didn't like. They were all brilliant. There were a range of different voices, different styles, even some YouTube people. Jim Sterling did the voice acting for Robert Saxton. I don't want to get that name wrong. And it was great. Actually, I spent the entire game wondering why this voice sounded so familiar. It wasn't until the credits came down at the end I was like, ah, Jim Sterling, now I understand what's happened. The dialogue was good, but the voice actors brought it to life. They made it believable. Now, moving on to the story. I'm going to just start with my faults with the story. It's a 3-hour game, but at the same time, for the first hour of this 3-hour game, nothing interesting happened. When a third of your game is just me going through it, yes, I'm enjoying it, but at the same time, I'm starting to feel like it's like there's nothing going on. It's a bit dull. After the first hour, towards the end of book 1, when something major happens, going into book 2, it picks up. It's a whirlwind of emotions, of things happening, and I didn't want it to end. I think the story is done very well. They cover some serious things, such as racism, and to a lesser extent for now, but I think building up in the future, sexism. But they don't sound preachy about it. They do it in a mature way, which can be difficult. And for a first game from a studio, I understand they've worked on different projects in the past, but for a first game from the studio, I think they did it with maturity, and I think they did it really well. They didn't seem insulting of what are serious issues. At the same time, they didn't bludgeon your head with it until you wanted them to just shut up. The characters are all well developed. They, with the exception of some of the side characters, which don't have much screen time to be developed, for a 3-hour game, they did a good job developing everyone else. Not so much the character you play, because at the end of the day, it's your story, but for the people around him, the captain, the senator, the niece of the senator, it's all, they at no point feel like they're one-dimensional. This is the damsel in distress. This guy obeys all the rules. This guy is a bit mischievous. They have sort of, well, I'm going to say, the front face, which they show everyone. So this is the guy with a stick up his ass. This guy is, the strict, by-the-book rules kind of guy. But you do see there's other sides to them. There is more to it than meets the eye. The by-the-rules kind of guy could also be willing to bend them slightly if it's for the good of the people around him and his crew. The guy with a stick up his ass has shown that he does have a caring side. He did love someone. I think that's, again, going back to what I said about racism and sexism, it's difficult to get right, and I think Whisperfire did a great job doing that. Now, the story takes part in 2 different places at the same time. You are in India, and you are telling back your story to someone else. So this gives a sense of foreshadowing. You see what's coming, in a sense. You're telling your journey of how you got to this place. Which also means there are some cliffhangers that are still yet to be explained. I start the game, and this is in the first 10 minutes or so. So it's not a spoiler really. I have a captain's jacket. Whereas in the story that I'm telling this person about how I got here, I've only just gone to the ship. I am, for all intents and purposes, the lowest of the low. And that is something that travels through with you for the whole game. You're always wondering, where's this going? How does this build up to this point? How am I going to get there? And it means that even now that I've finished the first 2 books, I still want to know more. I want to know how the journey continues. I want to know how I'm getting to this point in the end. And speaking of the ending, the cliffhanger that it leaves you on, I never saw it coming. I spent the entire time trying to guess where things were going, and honestly, the person you meet at the end completely shattered any beliefs or ideas I had of what was going on. It was a complete shock, and I am really excited to see more. At the end of the day, this is a £7 game for a 3-hour experience. It's short, and for some people that might not be worth it, but for the story, for what you got to experience, for the replayability, throughout this game your choices matter. I know that's something that Telltale like to say, your choices matter, but your choices really do matter. I've watched someone else play this game and completely different things happened. People died in mine which didn't die in his, and are still about on the ship. Yes, they're not central. It is sort of on the fringes, but it does give this game replayability. I'm now going to go back and I'm probably deliberately going to choose everything opposite of what I did before. Maybe keep some things the same, because I want to know how much it can change. I want to know how I could have done things differently, how I could have done things better maybe. So for £7 for a game when there's such choice of what could happen, this is a second playthrough, maybe even a third playthrough kind of game. I think it's worth that. I enjoyed it, and I am definitely looking forward to playing book 3 and 4. I can guarantee they will be day one purchases for me when they come out, and they will be straight on this channel. No matter what I'm doing, whether I'm doing another series or whatever, we'll have to do 2 series in tandem. I want to play book 3 and 4 straight away, and I think that's the biggest recommendation I can give this game. So thank you. If you liked what I just did, if you like me being here talking to this computer, then hit the like button down below. Subscribe if you want to see more. If you hate the idea of these vlogs, of me just spewing what I think of a game towards you, there's a dislike button down there as well. Preferably I prefer the like button, it's much nicer and more cheerful looking next to it. And then if you want to see more, hit subscribe and leave comments down below. I would really like to hear what happened to you in your game if you played it. I want to know what choices you made and how they differed to what I did. So thank you and goodbye.